applause going and welcome the one and only Sam Raimi. Sam, that's quite a reception after this roller coaster you've taken everybody on.
Yeah, this is this moment, but in about 35 minutes I'll be heading home, and about an hour from now, my kids in my house will be saying, "Move out of the way of the TV, Dad." They'll be torturing me, changing the channels. Man, that's a fun part.
No, but honestly, this film is, I mean, as everybody I get to experience in the audience tonight, it's a wild ride that, you know, is funny, but is disturbing and scary and moving at times, and it's thrilling. I'm curious if you could take us back to the beginning. Was that all in the script? Like,
No, not everything. The fellows Shannon and Swift, they wrote the screenplay. I've written a number of these guys ever, and they had a pitch, and they brought us to designer Zizi, my producer, and we heard the pitch together about 3 minutes long, and we were blown away by it. So we just got them a deal to write a script, and then it sat in the studio for a couple of years, and I had to get it out, make it elsewhere, and we did, and it seemed to work out well, and I had a really supportive group at 20th Century Studios who was not trying to fight the film. They knew it was a weird film, but they tried to embrace that and allow that to happen in a very creative way. Good notes for the structure of the screenplay, and great notes from the editing room. Just the right notes, not swamping us, and things we hadn't considered. But they had been privy to all the test screenings, so they had some really good brains over there that could use that and their own opinions and really help guide some of the cutting. It's great.
I'd love if you could talk about the casting process. I mean, you have to find the two stars that make this all work. So how did you land on both Dylan O'Brien and Rachel McAdams?
Well, I had a great experience meeting and working with Rachel on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And she was so good. She played the role she had created for the first Doctor Strange movie. So it was a recreation. She just recreated that role. She didn't really need my help at all doing that. But then it was a multiversal version of Rachel, because this movie was opening up the multiverse at that moment. And she played Rachel too, but with super subtle changes in her behavior that I had known were put into her new backstory that came out. And it was amazing to watch somebody hit the key of C in one octave, just hit it perfectly in the next octave up. And then with Marvel, we did some reshooting. So we go back, and there's now a third multiversal version of her character. And I see her completely created from whole cloth. The same performance again, same dialogue, mostly the same, except for key moments that are different because she's lived a different backstory. And she nailed it. It was like, great. And then when it came to physical effects, in the new script I added some dumb action, and Rachel, in this scene a ghost will slug you in the jaw. You fly back under the couch, and then Rachel, a demon, will jump on you. And you catch it with your feet, and you do flying angel for a moment, and you throw it off. And I expect you to not just roll her eyes, but to say, "I'm not sure I can do that, Sam." It's so dumb to be slugged by a ghost. But anyway, The thing she said to me was, "What angle do you want me to hit that chaise lounge at?" And I went, "That's cool. I can work with an actress like this." And she had so nailed the operatic parts of her performance where she's singing in different keys, so to speak. This was just a whole other skill. It's about an attitude of, I'm going to make it the best it is, whatever comes out of his mouth, whether the lame idea comes out of that guy's mouth again, I'm gonna make it the best it is, and be proud of my work. So she's got that ability, it's really great.
And how about Dylan? How did he come along?
No, he doesn't. No, I'm just trying to get a laugh. He's great to work with. They're both very pleasant people on the surface, and I can believe that they can achieve any personality on the surface at dinner parties. But then you get to know them, and you realize what great artists they are, and how they can keep track of not only a transformation of their character from power to being relieved of that power and the slow recognition that that's happened, I mean from his point of view, and the gaining of power again, even by diabolical means, even though he's kind of made a pact with her that there's going to be a truce, he just can't, his nature forces him to do terrible things so he's on top and in control. So it's a battle, as you know, of it's a power dynamic shift, basically, story. It's fun for me. It's something really fun for the audiences to act. In addition to a power dynamic shift that's happening, there's an audience identification shift that we were attempting to have happen, which I haven't seen in the movies, but it's probably in all these movies, and I'm not aware of it. But first we were going to try and make Linda this underdog who you really rooted for, and saw how unfairly she was treated, and saw she deserved a raise, but was promised it, didn't get it, saw what a victim she was of this hierarchy in this business, these men and their limited thoughts holding her down. And then in a final act of usury, when the boss is manipulating her to want to plan for a merger, plane crashes, she washes up, of course, this is just sovereignty, right?
You can spoil it.
And yeah, he lands there too, and then that part of the story is about showing them coming to terms with their powerlessness and the fact that she has power. She's always had power. She's just in a place where the environment doesn't support it anymore, that power structure, and she can grow. She realizes her strengths as she moves to that first act and gains confidence in her own ability and who she is. And I think that's why she doesn't want to leave the island. She's finally the boss, and she makes the rules, and she's the smartest person in the land. And I think there was also something wrong with her, or even the office scene. But she was like a sickly little seed, bad seed that came to this island and found fertility. And not only did that plant grow into a powerful, beautiful plant, but it also developed some poisonous sparks on it. You know, some ugly stuff showed itself too, and she played that beautifully. And we had a goal of trying to make the audience identify with her, this lonely survivor, and hate him. And then we started to realize as she grew in power, that we would try the technique of shifting audience identification to Dylan, you know, realizing that she had said goodbye to that boat. Like, what, lady? But we tried to keep her identifiable, but tried to shift the alliance to Dylan, I'm rooting for him. And back and forth, it was a real attempt for us to take the audience on a journey, not knowing what was going to come next. That was our goal. And to support those decisions. So you'd be right there and laughing if you understood why they made that decision. Whether it was out of weakness or that's what you would have done. That's what we were going for, is to try and keep the audience entertained on a roller coaster.
It's amazing, yeah. Hearing you talk about the progression of her character, it's amazing how natural all the insane things feel in that context that she's doing. Because when we get to the scene with the surgery that thankfully ends up not being real, I think everyone in this room really thought it was happening. And like you had set up a film in a scenario where like that could be actually what's happening. And I think that's just wonderful, that boundary push. Was it important to you to get that scene right, and like was it hard to like work out the tenor of it and how it's going to play out?
Yeah, just as hard as any other scene really, that has a little bit of progression to it. So it has continuity elements to it. Knife turning to glow red, where it is, where the food shabab is going to be, that octopi shabab, whatever. Kebab. There's a continuity to it, and there's a continuity of what's happening. She is pretending to be a sympathetic ear. Secretly, she's getting him off guard. She's prepared this poison, and she leads it to him just at the right moment. And then she explains the fun he's in for. And he's hoping that's not going to be there. It's him with the audience. It's like, we didn't pay to see this. But I thought I would torture you anyways.
I'd love if you could talk a little bit about developing this wonderful oddball chemistry between your two stars. Did you do rehearsals, or is this just something that came about as you guys started working?
Well, the writers started it with their great writing, Shannon and Swift. And then the actors brought such a tremendous amount to it, really understanding the character so much. And then getting to set and being such a capable actor on this beach that they could ad-lib. They knew their characters, they knew what they wanted. They were able to confidently speak from their character's mouth, and it sounded true and funny. And the other character would react completely in character. I know that's what they call acting, Sam. But to watch these guys do it is like watching something they never saw before. And the ad-lib portion of it, they could do that in character and grow the scene, that their minds were witty enough to write in the moment. Second City guys can do. I mean, I'm not saying it's unheard of talent, but to watch the script and it just drive in new directions and funny directions because of them was a really exhilarating experience.
I'm thinking of Dylan's incredible laugh. He develops this stuff. How did that come about? I mean, this seems to be one of those specificities they find in the character. Like, when did he debut it for you?
How did he debut?
His laugh, yeah.
When we started rolling on camera, I saw that bully laugh and I went, whoa. I thought, I'm not sure, the audience might be able to forgive you if I treat Linda, but that laugh really pushes me. I don't know if we can get back from it. But he was right. He goes, let me try it. You've got takes me softer takes and not obnoxious in the audience's face. Let's try it. So we did, and I fell in love with it. And he's right, it's a bigger jump to get the audience to move back to him as the antagonist briefly. Or are they doing a love story? We're about to go on a love scene now with these two? I mean, I didn't want him to be irredeemable for many reasons. He is still irredeemable. I mean, it's just terrible.
Shifting gears, I'd love if you could talk about finding your location, because I know a lot of it is shot on a real beach in Thailand. I mean, it kind of feels like its own character at times, the actual island. How did you find it? And I mean, can you talk a little bit through the difficulties of actually shooting there?
Yes, we went to Australia as our home base, and we did pre-production and shot for about 5 weeks there. Then we traveled to Thailand, just outside of Phuket, and we were on a banana farm that was on the beach, and then you'd go down that hill. That's what we were down the hill with the movie. Couldn't see the banana trees, so we disguised them if we had to. But it wasn't an island, is what I meant to say. Our CG artists helped create an island from photography from the drone of the place we were shooting, and places around there. They crafted it to make it look like an island. So it was tough shooting on the beach. I remember saying to my assistant director, Eric Efron, in scouting, I'd love to shoot after we shoot that night scene we're talking about by torch, artificial torchlight, let's say. In the morning, I want to film them because I think something's going to still be sparkling in their mind from the previous night, and I want that inflection on the scene. And Bill Pope has only said we can do it in the morning for the looking one, so let's do it tomorrow morning. He said, you can't. I said, why? He said, the beach won't be there. And then I realized who the real master of the movie was a tide dust. And I should have known it, but I've never shot at the beach before. That ocean comes up, 15 feet, or I don't know, I'm probably exaggerating, but he completely wiped out our ocean, however many feet that was, and it'll be back at 2. Yeah, with the lights going down and the clouds there, but anyways, it's the usual, same, every movie's the same. There's a certain amount of work to do, place to get to, and your goal is first safety, make sure no one's in danger. But really your goal is artistically, make this better. Look, expand it, let's explore elements we haven't thought about. Can we make it deeper? Can we make it funnier? What would be more unexpected way to start the scene? 1 beat later, 2 beats later? Sometimes I ask myself random questions. That's why I'm insane. But it does help when you focus those questions on scenes in the movie and challenge yourself.
I mean, one of the things the film I think takes to the next level too is the level of detail. It's like it feels like real survival techniques, and I think they are. So you talk about crafting that. You must have learned a lot about surviving.
Yes, we all did. We had a great instructor. First of all, the writers, when they wrote the script, did some of their own research. My buddy, my story artist friend, did a lot of research, and the people that worked for him on the 3rd floor, Doug Love, that's his name, and the people who worked for him are pre-visual people, and they did a lot of research how you would survive in this environment. And then the art and prop department really depended on our survivalist. She's one that showed naked and afraid. Yeah. I could do the second half of that show.
Did your actors know what they were getting into in that sense? Because I'm sure that there's tons of makeup and wonderful effects in that sense, but it probably was very physically demanding too. I mean,
Absolutely.
Salt and the sweat.
Yes. Eden Ismail, the fiance in the movie, had to take a big fall down this rock cliff and do some wire work with the falling toward the ground, and she also had to be mudded up in this intense makeup suit because she supposedly came back from the dead and she's a ghost, a demon haunting Rachel, and then she had to wear some of that in the water at night and crawl up out of the ocean at night, and she was on the cliff doing near edge of the seat stuff, walking along the edge, but she always came through. She was such a hard-working woman and striking. I never seen anyone that looks like her. I think people would like to put her in there, but at least she would make more of a name for herself out here.
I want to talk about the crash sequence, which is one of the most visceral and upsetting plane crashes I've ever seen. And it looks incredibly hard to pull off, and then you even get into the water. I think you shot in the tank, with tanks and stuff too. Can you talk about designing and bringing that to fruition?
Yeah, well, it's always scary to have anything to do with water as a director. You want to make sure you're not going to kill people. It's got to look like you're going to kill them. So you need safety divers and mechanical engineers to tell you what would be safe, and water experts to tell you what dangers could affect your shoot. It's not like I didn't know. I would put them in a tin can set and drop her in a tank full of water. What could happen? That's the job I want. Well, she can drown, sir. How much are they paying you for that? You think that could happen? No, I know that. That's what I was terrified of. That's why I'm making jokes about it. Of course, children, it's nothing to joke about.
Oh,
Are we gonna start this movie soon?
Sam, another scene that got massive amounts of applause was the never-ending scene with the wild boar, which is just amazing. Can you talk to us about coming up with that?
Well, the writers put it in the script, and I thought that's easy for you to say. But worked on it with a whole team of great artists. They are skilled craftsmen. Well, first of all, my good friend Bill Pope, the cinematographer, and I made sure we understood the action of the scene. And the moment I talk about some scene, he gets up and performs it for everyone. And it's like, oh my God, are you going to do this every time we talk about a scene? The 15th time was pretty good. But then the crew would go, oh my God. But he really helps you visualize the scene. He jumps into it, can't stop himself from showing the actors and you and the crew what it is we should be going after. And it's tough for a director when you've got such committed people. And Bill says, "When she gets poison, she should really go, roll out the floor in the sand, and the crew's just waiting for it to stop." And then to get out of that bad suggestions, there really is no getting out. You just go on to the next shot, basically. That's not going to happen. But everybody contributed. So the sculptors who made the puppets on set, and I really needed great puppets that would snarl and bite and had a big mouth, opening roar, and would blow blood from its throat when stabbed, and blow spittle when it's angry. And of course, as hogs would do, to blow some hog mucus.
Other filmmakers always leave that out for some reason.
People objected to the hog mucus. They say, Sam, you cannot put that substance in your movie. That substance is hog mucus. And I said, no, it's not.
Before we open it up to the audience, I do want to talk about Danny Elfman and his How does the process normally go? And what did you tell him about the film and develop it?
Well, he not only is a brilliant artist, a musician with rock and roll band and his other abilities to play instruments, but he's also a great storyteller. And he combines both his ability to communicate subconsciously different things, sometimes in support of the action, sometimes in counterpoint, sometimes it's about supporting the insane tone of a moment. But he's really my partner in storytelling, just as Bob Browski, my editor, is. You decide which take and how long and what's the funniest, what's the scariest way to do this, how can we improve the suspense. And we have screenings and things don't work, and you've got to sit in that room and think, what did we do wrong here? Why can't this scene get the laugh we think it should? Or why don't they think what we think they think they think? So there's a lot of those sessions, and it's the route that leads you to, the reshoot section. That's why they're so big in Hollywood, and I fully support them. It's great. I always do things right the second time. It's much easier to see your movie with holes, or somebody took one moment in the wrong direction, me, but to know where that wrong direction is, people think something that you didn't want them to think, so that's like a classic reshoot moment.
All right, let's take some questions here. I see a hand go right there.
Hi there. So while watching the movie, I was thinking a lot about Misery, the Rob Reiner film. Were you inspired in any way by that? The whole balance between the two of like sort of the obsessiveness of just trying to get this person to be part of their life and everything like that. And also you remind me of Kit from Futurama. It's very soft and nice.
Okay, I won't summarize that part, but for those in the back, the question is if Misery was an inspiration.
I love Stephen King's great book, and I love the brilliant Rob Reiner's motion picture of the book. It's a classic, and I love Kathy Bates personally, but I love her in the movie. So when I read one time that Hollywood described our movie in early pre-production as Misery meets Castaway, I thought, damn it, yeah, it is. I tried to make decisions consciously from that point, reading that, where if Misery went one way and I had a similar situation, I'd really either avoid that or take it the opposite way of interesting, if it could work. But I consciously tried to stay away from those two great movies that I love, because it is true that maybe the writers were influenced by that.
Who else? Let's go there.
Yeah. So, hi, I appreciate your work, Raimi.
Thank you.
One question I have is this: what do you think is the takeaway for this movie? Is this like a sort of cautionary tale of insanity? Or,
Sorry, would you say that again, louder?
yeah, what's your takeaway for this movie? Is it like a cautionary tale about insanity or something like that?
What do you hope is the takeaway for the movie?
I hope the audience enjoyed watching a character who is an underdog come into their own and be appreciated for what she can do in the world, not just about living in some system other people set up for her to succeed or fail in. And I'd like to see the wish fulfillment, bad boss being punished. I never really had a bad boss. I had a good boss, but I really liked, and I thought people would enjoy that in a fantasy. Because when it was pitched to me, that's really what the hope was for my producing part, was that I'd like to see that. But it turned out, working with these writers, it wasn't enough, and it was kind of pushed all the way down into the first act, and that's where the story begins now, really, with that old hook, and then it can tell a new story going forward. Sorry, I think I slipped away from your question. I'll try to be more attentive.
Yes, right there.
Hi. I wanted to know what, there's a lot of really good like visual gags and jokes and just fun stuff in the movie. Was there a particular one that you thought was just like right from the script? You're like, I cannot wait till we get to this part.
Oh. Well, it has, yes, that exists for me, but it has to do with a weird technical thing. When I made the movie Army of Darkness, I could never get the sun photographed well. It was either burned out, or it was too out of focus, or it was in focus and looked like an orange square against the blue. You know, we brought the background so down that to expose it that it looked like deep, deep blue, almost like an outer space look, and you could see the moon like a graphic. It absolutely didn't look like I needed it to. It looked like an observatory picture. So finally learned how to, and so I did it wrong in that movie. It's supposed to be the sun beating down on ash, so it moves across the desert, and I tried different elements. I have my son there, fortunately, so he could experiment for me. He's my second unit director. Speaking of which, my girlfriend is in the front row here, Yvonne Flores. We've done really well in the last 3 years, and what I've learned is, I don't try and run her life, and I don't try and run mine. It works out very well.
Let's go right here.
Hi, Mr. Raimi. So the visual gags, the blood and the vomit reminded me of Drag Me to Hell. I was wondering, are you working on a sequel, and so can you give some status
Will there be a sequel to Drag Me to Hell?
Yes, thanks for that call out to Drag Me to Hell, and I wouldn't know where that story would go from here. I can't figure it out. I'm mad with power. That's really all you do, isn't it? I really want to examine the scope of this job that I just took from you. Everybody's so mad about that. What is the job exactly? I'm joking.
I liked the suggestion right here, this question.
No, that one.
Oh. You better ask fast.
Any flashbacks into Bruce Campbell, or is he just a picture frame in the movie?
I love Bruce, but there really wasn't a role for him in this picture that was worthy of his talents. And I never want to put him in a movie there where I don't have a place he can really shine and bring his best. People, the audience, love to see him brutalized. And I finally figured out that's why they call him Bruce. I'm joking, of course.
Oh, let's go right here.
Having met Bruce, it says you love to brutalize him. I was wondering, what was your favorite moment of brutalizing Bruce?
For those in the back, what was your favorite moment of brutalizing Bruce in your career?
I think Spider-Man 2, because I had a good weapon that day. I had one of these extendo canes, which you toss him like, so I could tap curtly near Bruce's head. I could quietly either give him the big point for a show for the crew, or give him a little nudge below. A lot of it is in the hips. But I had a good weapon on that one, the extendo cane, so it has to do with the experience during the day. I had a feather on another movie. That was a good day.
We have time for a couple more. Is there anyone in the back? Let's go in the back, yeah. See you. Yeah, behind you actually. Yeah, waiting, yeah.
Hi, great movie, loved it, so much fun, and I just had a question, the blood looked familiar, have you changed the formula from Aero syrup, red food dye, and I think it's powdered milk? Has that been updated?
Well, I use Aero syrup, a lot of red food coloring, small, few drops of blue to give it that unaerated look. And some coffee to darken it. And I would always, throughout my whole high school life and college life, I'd be splashing blood in my actors' faces, in their eyes, in their mouth. Oh, don't worry, it says Aero syrup, you'll be fine, kid. Then one day told me, that red dye will blind people. But I've been telling them it's safe my whole life. I thought red dye would be safe, not in the eyeball, you idiot. So I had to kind of abandon my blood, which I thought it was all-purpose edible items. This red dye number 3 took a turn for the worse.
Can I ask what the vomit is made from in this film? The berries?
That vomit, I remember just, scolding a prop person. That's not what that vomit would look like. Let's study the elements that you masticate. Let's go through the scraps of that scene. But she had to match that particular vomit to that orange-colored poisonous berry and mangoes that she was eating. Anyways, there's a lot of people involved in vomit. It's not a small thing, and it's some people's specialty, and I don't want to laugh at their art either. I said, nobody listens to me. At home or here, but
I think we have time for like 2 more questions. Caleb. I see you back there.
Forgive me if I missed it, but where was the old building?
Parking garage.
I can't tell you that. That is one of those Easter eggs that you've got to find on your own. Thanks for being aware of that.
Who's got a really good last question? Yeah, waving. Yeah.
I've been a fan of your movies for a while, and I love how you mix horror and comedy together. Do you think that comedy and horror are 2 genres that should always be put together, or is that just your own influence?
It's my own background in making low-budget comedies, not wanting to make horror movies, and realizing that horror movies had a great art and craft to them also. And then realizing that learning how you build a suspense sequence, still figuring out. And the similarities to that and the setup to a joke, you're getting the audience into this anticipatory place, following along, and then either in the joke or the scare, which I find similar, it's some unexpected thing or incongruous thing or the obvious truth, or it's something that hits you. And one of the reactions is to laugh, but similarly, it's so similar to the Scream thing. I often would attempt suspense sequences, and the scare would happen and people would laugh. They're afraid. And they realized the similarities of a joke in that, and I started to realize I could put a joke there. I could maybe have a suspense sequence getting the audience on the edge of their seat, and a great way to hit a joke. And I tried that with the pig head. I wanted to stay in Rachel's face, but Bob Morosky made the best cut. It was planned, of course, but that pig head drops the frame and it got a really big laugh. I didn't see your guys' show, but it worked really well. That was a weird combination of me experimenting with suspense, build up to comedy and anyways, I don't want to work everybody out. Alternate paths of experimentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody.